Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the July 2013 Suffolk County Council on Environmental Quality meeting. I want to welcome everybody and remind everyone this is a public meeting. If there's something you would like to say about a particular item that is on the agenda, please wait till that item is being discussed, and then you're more than welcome to speak. All right, the minutes. Has anyone had a chance to read the June 2013 minutes?
The minutes were spectacular as always.
Mm-hmm. Mary Ann, do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept them and say yes?
And I'll second.
Seconded by Mike. All in favor? Passed. Christine, any correspondence besides the very last-minute environmental assessment form for the Bavarian Inn demolition? Is there anything else we should be aware of?
There's a letter in the packets that we did from you to Greg Dawson.
Which you had
Commissioner
done
Dawson.
via email, and that was
Yes.
fine. Has everyone else had a chance to read this letter?
Yeah, that's
Mary
fine.
Ann, you're fine
Yes,
with it?
thank you.
Yes, I know, because we did that for you, the request. Okay, thank you. All right. Historic Trust docket.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Update on the housing program. I've been reporting on the vacancies that we've had in the recent past. We have now filled all the available houses. The last one to be occupied was at the Robinson Duck Farm, which was a larger home, but we did find someone to move out, actually moved in this week.
Okay.
So they've all been occupied, the ones that can be rented. So we do not have any vacancies right now.
That's excellent.
And the contracts, I don't have any news. Nothing's really moved forward. So I have no news on that. What I would like to report on is the tours that were given relating to the request for interest on our new pilot program. And the first two buildings that are being explored for the possibility of being adopted in a sense by a private entity and restored is the Elwood Schoolhouse and in Elwood and Black Duck Lodge out in Flanders. I have provided tours to groups for both of those sites. We are getting interest. Their proposals and ideas are due July 18th. And this is just for the expressions of interest. And then from that, we will formulate a formal RFP, request for proposals, but we are getting interest in the program. And just current events, I don't know if everyone sees Newsday. This was on over the July 4th weekend.
That's really nice.
Yes. And this was a result of their 50th anniversary event they had on site. John Hank attended that event and spent a lot of time with the volunteers. And so it's very nice to get this. Also helps with the attendance. It brings this to light, and we get a lot more attendance at the site. So we were happy to see this. Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. All right, project review. Recommended unlisted actions. Proposed sewer district number 6, Kings Park Sewer Extension, Town of Smithtown. Good morning. Please state your name and affiliation.
Good morning. John Donovan, Chief Engineer, Sanitation, Public Works. Also with me is Ben Wright, Engineer in our office, and Commissioner Anderson. And also Allison Murray from the Town of Smithtown, if there's any questions regarding that. Thanks for letting us present our project today. I don't know if all of you know what was been going on in this area, but we have the project is to expand sewers into the Main Street, Kings Park downtown area, and to also include Kingswood development, which is on a failing system. So we're here to present our environmental impact statement for the sewers in the road, and also to do a pump station on the Smithtown Water District site. Just to give a little background, there was a feasibility study done in 2006. We hired a consultant to look at this area to see if sewers would be feasible to install. It came back positive that for social, economic, and environmental reasons, it would be good to install sewers in this area. After that study, we hired an engineer to start doing the design, and that's where we are right now. This is We're about 95% done with the design of the sewers and the road and the pump station. The only item was the pump station. We were securing a site from town of Smithtown so we could finish that. Now that we have the site, we're finishing that up. The service area is 65 acres, if you can see the boundaries in yellow, 140 lots, and the projected flow from this area is about 95,000 gallons per day. Kingswood, and that includes Kingswood, which is 30,000 gallons per day. It'd be about 1.5 miles of sewers in the road, and then a 1.5 mile force main from the pump station, which is in pink, going to the treatment plant, which is just located off this map to the top right. North is this way, Long Island Sound is up here. The plant has excess capacity. The treatment plant at Kings Park is 600,000 gallons a day. That's what it's rated for. We're doing about 300,000 gallons a day. This 100,000 gallons, we should be able to handle no problem. There's flow capacity there. With the Long Island Sound study, the treatment plant is required it has a mass loading of nitrogen to the sound. We are meeting that. There's a limit in 2014 of a total of 26 pounds that we're only allowed to discharge. Right now at half flow, we're doing about 13 pounds, so we're doing right what we have to. So even adding this flow, we're going to go up a little bit of pounds, but we're within our limit with the Long Island Sound study. Concentration-wise, we do about 4 or 5 milligrams of nitrogen discharge. This project, there's a lot of agencies involved. Smithtown is involved trying to, support this project. They're looking for grants with state and other sources of funding. County infrastructure has a grant program. Smithtown put an application in for that. And CFA applications, we just completed an application to ESDC or EBSC, I forget the acronym for that, but we're, there's a lot of, the town is very much in support of this. The businesses, I think, are mostly in support of this, and it's something to revitalize kind of a depressed area right now, the main street of Kings Park. The EF application we submitted doesn't, we didn't feel there was any issues. There's historic in the vicinity of where we're working, but we're going to be just in the road beds. We're not going to be really disturbing anything off the main street, except for going to the buildings or whatever. That's already infrastructure disturbed. The pump station, again, it's the water Smithtown water pump site. We're just going to take probably about I think a 50 by 50 type piece of that property to build a pump station with a road access road to the road, and then the force main will be again in the roadway all the way to the plant. So that pretty much sums up the project. If anybody has any
John,
questions.
well, one question. The developed area, the housing area you were mentioning, that little small...
Yeah, Kingswood.
Does that have a current package treatment plant, or are they on individual cesspools?
I think it's a cesspool system.
They put us in the whole community.
But yeah, it's on like a localized septic system. Yeah.
Oh,
Community
okay,
septic.
all right. And has it been failing, or how
Yeah, they've been having problems, and they really wanted to. They were looking at connecting to the plant themselves years ago, but the cost was just too high. So this would be something that they could, piggyback onto it, and it would help them out tremendously.
And now for the actual connection cost for the stores on Main Street and that housing development, who bears those costs then?
Well, that's why a lot of grant money is trying to be found. The total project cost is about $17 million to install the sewers and the pump station to the plant. There's another, because they're not in the sewer district, they'd have to pay a sewer connection fee. So it's $95,000 times $30 a gallon, which is about $2.8 million. So about $20 million is the whole cost. It would be borne by the users of the sewers. They would have to pay for it. So right now at $20 million, with the number of 140 lots and the businesses, you're looking at $5,000 to $10,000 a year just to pay back the debt, not including the user cost to the sewer district. So it's really not feasible right now unless they get some grant money.
Right?
I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and Christine, I'd like to have these questions reflected in the minutes. I'm very familiar with the project. The SDP, as a matter of fact, is directly across from my house. I can't see it, but it is very close by, and it does have some environmental impacts on water bodies that I used to have jurisdictions over. John, this, as you said, this additional capacity will not harm the Long Island Sound objectives. In other words, the plant will still be within compliance of
Correct.
the Long Island Sound objectives regarding nitrogen.
Correct.
There's not going to be any connection with the Smithtown Central Business District.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there going to be any connection with what they call the Uplands Project, which is to the northeast, I think? Is there any plan to pump any of the cleaned water from the SDP at this time to that Uplands Project?
No, that's not happening at this time.
There's not going to be any entry into undeveloped land or environmentally sensitive land, and no destruction of same?
Correct.
Okay. I believe you said a moment ago that it was going to be, all construction was going to be in the road beds.
Correct.
Outside of the actual Seward area. Okay. The discharge of treated effluent will continue through the existing pipe into Smithtown Bay.
Correct.
Okay. In your opinion, is this going to improve the environment? Basically, for example, looking at wastewater, which right now goes into the groundwater components of the area, is to the extent that this is going to be going into a sewage treatment plant, is it the department's opinion that the environment will be improved by this project?
Oh, absolutely. You know, our opinion is anything you could put on sewers is better than going into an on-site septic system. On-site septic systems pretty much just have raw sewage settling out and then leaching into the ground. Sewers, we take that sewage and we treat it and make it a clean effluent with all, like, you know, meeting all the DEC permits, EPA permits, and make pretty much clean water. So that's what would be done here. And again, the Kingswood development is a classic example where they're having serious problems with failures, and I think they have some backups. It's some overflow backups onto their site, so this would tremendously help that community.
Now I'm going to ask a segmentation question. At one time, there was talk about bringing the Smithtown Central Business District into this particular plan. The approximate cost of this project, if that was to occur, was north of $60 million, as I understand.
Correct.
Right now, do you have any plans at this point in time to hook up Smithtown Central Business into the sewage treatment plant in the foreseeable future?
No, we don't. The cost is tremendous, so that's why we're keeping the Smithtown component out of it, and it probably will never go unless you get serious money.
So you have no plans at this point in
No
time
plans
to
at this
connect
point.
Smithtown in? Okay, so there's no segmentation. We are just being presented at this point in time with a plan specifically oriented towards the Kings Park Central Business District.
Correct.
I would emphasize in the future that if the Central Business District of Smithtown were to be connected, or if the effluent location was to be changed from the pipe right now that goes into Smithtown Bay, determinations of this board might change. I mean, basically, you might have greater environmental impact, some sort of significant environmental impact that might, in the future, lead towards an environmental impact statement, et cetera. This plan in isolation, I mean, right now, given the discussions that are occurring around the table, I don't see that. But if the plan became much larger, and if significant elements changed, I could see that.
Okay.
So,
Jim?
What approvals have to be obtained, you know, by the county before this happened? I mean, what's the process?
Well, this board needs to.
I
this
understand
agency
that,
needs
that's,
to-
well, environmental review, but it has to go through other agencies too.
Yes, the DEC, they review our reports. I think, you sent anything to DEC?
Engineering report.
Engineering report. We sent the engineering report on the design of sewers in the Main Street and the pump station. The plans and specs will have to be approved by DEC also once they're complete and they're almost ready.
I mean, does the local community have to approve this
Yeah,
extension of the sewer district?
there'll have to be a resolution.
Yeah, we'll need, public hearings, environmental process
State your name,
completed.
please,
Ben
for the
Wright,
recording.
Public Works. And go through the state controller's office to get their approval. And all of that leads to, some of the funding options, like with EFC, with the low-interest loans, et cetera, we need a district form, so we have to go through those steps, but everything hinges on having secret approval first.
Tom?
Thanks. I understand you described the capacity of the plant as 24, not sure what the units are, pounds per day?
Well, that's the Long Island Sound Study limit we were charged
Yeah,
with.
It's 26 something, right?
I'm sorry, 26 pounds, yes,
Per
per day.
day, right?
It's a rolling average though.
And that number is what was put into the permit that you got when you got your last round of permits. Is it the case that the Long Island Sound Studies plan for the future anticipates leaving those the same? Or isn't the Long Island Sound Study thinking about trying to further?
Yes, the study, the 26 pounds is our final limit. We were doing much higher than that, and we were probably doing over 100 pounds a day when the hospital was still in service and we had a lot more flow. So they, back in the 90s when they set this, they had an interim level, which was, I think, double what 26 was now. In 2014, we need to meet 26 pounds. We're already meeting it now.
And so this is being built with a 20 or 30-year horizon or something, and to your understanding, the horizon for Long Island Sound loading is you're there. You're at the level you need to be, and that will probably stay the same.
This is, at this time, this is our level.
Okay.
It's not going to go down.
I don't know that Long Island Sound Study has been able to get that far out, but let's, for now, I guess it sounds okay that we're staying under compliance. Let me point out, though, that 26 number that we're underneath, it's not really wide open white space to be used. Long Island Sound has a problem with hypoxia, again this year. As you can intuitively guess, a lot of problems in West, right? Boston Harbor and those things over there. Then it gets better and better, and now it's wonderful out in the race. There's a hot spot, and it's a pretty pronounced, consistent hot spot. Smithtown Bay. So the 26 that you have is like a sound-wide number that's based on everybody cutting some compromises and doing the right thing. Did the effluent increase that you're anticipating, did that get presented as a good idea because denitrification is going to happen at the plant, so less is going to go out through that direct release than actually leaches out? Now, is that how you got to it's a good idea? Because there's a hot spot now, it's a problem now. Adding more will make that problem worse, unless it's not actually more, and the leaching will actually decrease. Is that what they demonstrated? I didn't read the report.
That's my understanding, and
Okay,
again,
good.
mine's limited, is that you're going to take septic and eventual, flow to groundwater, and eventual that flow is going to go into the harbor. You're going to reduce that because you're going to be now sewering those areas that are currently septically.
And is there denite going on at the plant?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
And, Tom?
I didn't read that report, but if that's what happened, then sounds great.
Tom?
Mike, go ahead.
I'm very familiar with this plant. I've been watching it both at CEQ, because Larry and I are basically the institutional memory over here. Plus, again, I do live in the area, and I'm very concerned about what's happening with the Nisqually River, et cetera. One of the fears we've always had in my village is that pipe with the effluent goes out about 1,500 feet, and yeah, that's great on a high tide. Strike that on a low tide, but when we have a high tide coming in, we've always worried about it coming back into the river. So I take your concerns. The county has been, through the years, improving the plant over there. It used to give off a lot more nitrogen, and there have been major improvements brought into this plant through the years. I think it went from a secondary to a tertiary, if I'm not mistaken, about 5 years ago.
And the influent volume went down too.
Yeah, so the numbers have actually come down. The plant itself has, shall we say, improved its treatment facilities. And I don't remember when the 26-pound figure was established for the Long Island Sound Study, but I believe that it was looking at the plant as a tertiary plant. I think this is what's going on. I won't swear to it. So those numbers what you're looking at with the 26 pounds, one, it's a vast improvement over what was going on over there. And two, I believe the sound study did take into account the improvements that were coming in. I think that's where they came from. So 26 is a pretty low number is where I'm coming from. So that's the plant itself. Second off, you do have a very large pulse of nitrogen coming out through groundwater over there. That has been identified as a major issue in the area. And to the extent that the effluent from the non-sewered areas of this Kings Park Central Business District are taken out of that equation, that's, if you will, almost like a point source. To the extent that that's put into the sewer system, that's a gold standard. We're basically reducing, I shouldn't say we, but the county would be reducing the overall pulse of nitrogen that right now is going towards Sunken Meadow Creek. That actually has bearing upon one of the questions I asked a little while ago as to where the effluent would be going. As long as it goes into the plant, it's better, frankly, than what's going on right now, because again, that is a hot spot, and there is significant nitrogen movement to the north.
Well, okay, so I'll finish my contribution by saying as long as we know that that's been demonstrated, then that's a good condition. I'm not certain it's been demonstrated. Leachate sounds like a bad thing. Cesspools sound like a horrendous situation, but in fact, things happen in that cesspool by design. And then when things pass out through a marsh or a sediment environment, a lot more happens just before it gets to the water column. So there is
You're
treatment
talking
happening
adhesion and absorption, things like that?
It's denitrification that happens in the sediment, and it's not been well quantified, and it changes in different places, but I would suggest that we as a body make sure that that trade-off is fully examined and not just addressed conceptually. I think DEC will probably
Yeah, I mean,
seek
that's
the
part of their
same.
swap program. They've been looking at this stuff and looking at the plant. That much I do know. I believe the town of Smithtown also has been looking at some of these numbers, basically, because they are also concerned about the septic effluent moving north. Basically, the septics over here move north and east towards Sunken Meadow Creek and the park over there. And this is a significant pulse, as I've been saying. There's also a lot of polluted plumes to the west and other places, which all move over there. So anything that they can take out of the system, basically, is a good thing.
If it really is out of system, that I agree.
Is there a motion?
Wait, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I thought,
Gary, did you?
I did,
Oh, let him go first. Go ahead.
I just wanted a clarification. You had said that there wouldn't be any significant impacts on historic properties or environmentally sensitive properties.
Yeah, it's going through a road.
Because it's going to all be in the roadbed. Yet in the impact statement, it says it's potentially large impact. Did somebody check the wrong box, or was there?
What page is that on?
Page 16.
16 to 21.
If I could clarify
Yeah.
that, in that part two, if it's checked as a potentially large.
Yeah,
then
so what
it's-
can go wrong?
Well, then in part three, they explain whether it indeed is, and in part three, they explain because it's in the roadbed,
Oh, I
it's
see.
not viewed
Okay,
to
right.
be a
I should
potential.
read more. Yes, I should read more, sorry. And one last minor comment in, what page is that?
There's no water over in this area.
I guess the second part, so page 10, in terms of screening the pump station site. Nowadays, when you screen sumps and things like that, you still kind of like just use a line of the same species of trees, Okay. Is it possible to sort of change that thing and start using, let's say a half dozen different species of more or less drought tolerant small trees and shrubs? So A, it looks more natural, and secondly, if there's any kind of blight or anything, not everything dies all at once. I think it's a pretty straightforward thing. You can pick a half a dozen things, maybe more, and just repeat the pattern and stagger them out and not put them right up against the fence.
Put some
And it
weeds
looks
up
like a
there.
natural planting. Pardon me?
Let's put some weeds up there.
Wise guy. There are some tall ones that would hide a fence. But,
I mean,
yeah.
we could look into that. We try to screen with trees that don't have foliage, so we don't have a leaf problem.
Oh, I know. You
And
use
other stuff.
evergreens. But, there are a few evergreens, and
Okay, we could look into that.
I think that should be, a practice that should be followed. It makes a lot of sense.
Kara?
Okay, so I hope I asked this the right way. What you're adding to the sewer district, all of that would have leached into Smithtown Bay eventually, correct? Like the way the flow of the groundwater and the,
I believe so. I know this is still pretty far, but
Yeah, it's in the 10 to 25-year travel time to the surface waters.
right, so we're taking what now is contributing 50 parts per million
pretty much.
and bringing it down to you reach 4 or 5. And so the groundwater release into Smithtown Bay, do you have testing, do you have testing of the nitrogen level is there a way to do that?
Not us. I don't know if health department.
No, I'll refer to the application that was made by Smithtown for the infrastructure grants. Within that, it said there wasn't any information in that particular area, but that one of the old comp studies from 1987 indicated that under a central business district, the groundwater probably could be as high as 8 milligrams per liter.
So essentially, we're improving what's going into the bay, even though we're discharging into the bay, the discharge, I mean, I know this has been said before, I'm just trying to simplify it in my own mind. The discharge is much lower parts per million than what the leaching from the cesspools would have.
Yes, there's also, appears to be about 20 private wells that are in the path that, would have improved water quality if it takes
This is
place.
just like the Fort Jeff Island.
Even if we increase density within the sewer district, we're still only releasing at the 4 parts per million, no matter, we're not increasing poundage?
Well, if the flow goes up,
Is
even
that-
if the pounds will go up with the flow.
Right.
That's why they gave us a pound limit, but
Right.
we're allowed to discharge up to 26 pounds a day. We're only doing 13 right now. So, because our plant's rated for 600,000 gallons, we're only doing 300.
Okay.
So
But it's up to
stay-
the town to approve anything that might go into the district, like if there's a density increase
Well, yeah,
as a
that's-
result of
yes.
what you're doing. Okay.
Yes, town density.
Yeah, I have a question. This becomes a sewer district of Suffolk County, correct? So therefore, it has to go through the sewage board, right? Suffolk County, and any hookups to the district or increases in density has to go through that board and be approved by the county in the future, right?
Well, correct, with the sewer agency, they made an
Sewer
application to
agency.
sewer agency just this month. And yes, they would have whatever, well, we could do like we did with the Wyandanch expansion. That's a separate sewer improvement area, whatever it's called, but, so we allocated flow, and then it's true, every business coming in has a contract with us. We could do the same thing here.
Right, so you monitor it within the
Oh, yes.
district in the future. I mean, that's what Carol was asking. I mean, in the future, nobody just.
Oh, right. I mean,
Hookups and
there'll be
stuff.
limits. I mean, if they say they want to do 500,000 gallons a day in all the area because they build 10-story buildings, that won't happen. We won't, because we can't handle that. And I don't think the town would let that.
Is there a motion?
And I'll make a motion. Is this unlisted or type 1? It's an unlisted.
Unlisted.
Okay, unlisted, negative declaration.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple provisos to that. I would like to add, besides the normal things we put in the negative declaration, that all the necessary New York State DEC permits will be obtained, and that it is in conformance with the Long Island Sound study, Okay, so that, let's add that in the negative declaration as well.
That's fine.
Okay, any other concerns? Is there a second? Karen, is there a seconded, all in favor? Motion passed. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Could I ask a follow-up now that we're
Yes, Tom.
off the vote? The reason for the failure of that other subdevelopment that's been tacked on, is that geology or is that because they built a crappy system and
I think
and
it's
everybody
an
else in the neighborhood's okay?
It's an old system.
HF. It's being held together like, with chewing gum and spit and rubber bands at this
But
point.
the other stuff in the area wasn't worth considering bringing in? I mean,
Well, the other stuff in the area actually, quite
Annex.
frankly, is in commercial. What you see with the parameters of the district basically reflects a typical downtown Main Street hamlet configuration.
Right.
Go a block or two behind that, and you're basically looking at residents.
Yeah,
and that's what, my question is,
Yeah,
the
it's
other
not
residents
contiguous, yeah.
are okay, it's just that one package
one.
that,
Right.
Yeah,
thank
this-
you.
we were gonna include this area to make it connected, but there are residences in there, and the cost, if we can't get grants, or it's still a high cost, we figured businesses could pay it better than a resident. We didn't wanna
Thanks.
have them overburdened, so,
Thank you, John.
thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, recommended unlisted action, proposed demolition of the Bavarian building structure town in Smithtown. Who was here to speak?
Yes, I am.
State your name, please, and your affiliation.
Who are you?
Oh, let me check my card. Gil Anderson, Commissioner of Public Works, Suffolk County. There's an application, I believe, before the committee. We would like to undertake the demolition of the Bavarian Inn. Right now, it's abandoned, it's under the county's jurisdiction. It's an eyesore, it's a constant, I believe, hazard to the community. At the present time, we would do the demolition in-house after securing the proper permitting from the DEC and any other regulatory bodies. We're in the process right now of I think Monday we're going to go out to the site to actually look at the building, see if there's asbestos in the building. Depending on that, depending on what the permit states that we get from the DEC, we would then undertake demolition and eventually disposal of the building, and I would anticipate at some point, although right now we're not really looking at it, all the paved area, which is the remainder of the site. There is no plan at this point beyond that, at least from DPW's standpoint. We're just simply charged with taking down the building and hopefully getting rid of it.
Gil, can you let the board know, please, how this came about? What is the tax?
It was a tax lien,
Yeah, okay.
and the county
That's
took
all
it
I wanted
over.
to know.
Yeah.
And how long ago did that happen, do you know?
That I don't know. I think it's been a couple of years though. I know it's been, I think 7 years. I was talking to one of the local officers. They said it was about 7 years. And maybe Jill, Jill, there you go.
State your
Hi,
name,
I'm
Jill?
Jill Rosennikov, Director of Real Estate. We took the property in June of 2012.
Okay, due to lack of paying the real
Correct.
estate taxes, okay. All right. Other concerns with knocking down the building besides asbestos-containing materials? Obviously, lead-based paint would be a concern, and you would need a survey. Fuel
Right.
tanks, I don't know how they heated the building.
Right, we're looking at that. We're looking, yep.
Yeah, we need a full assessment
Yeah,
of it
Right.
definitely.
to know what is on there. I mean, I've been down there myself, and the place is a wreck, but God only knows what is over there.
Right. Do we need that in order to make our recommendation, or do we need to know that it'll be done?
I just want to know it will be done.
No, it'll be
Done
done. I mean, we're
safely.
gonna look, there's probably, what do you call it, because there's a restaurant, there are facilities in there, there's refrigeration facilities, the grease traps, we gotta locate all that. We're doing that now, we're in the process, and again, we will acquire all the permits that are necessary to take care
And
of it.
then, if this is on a slab, and they're just going to leave a slab there, or what's happening?
At the present time, we're not sure whether it's on a slab. I haven't been in the building yet.
It's a
It is a
basement.
There's a basement in there. They put a scuba team in.
So it's usually filled with the water?
Water.
Okay.
I would anticipate, at the end of the day, we would remove the entire structure.
Build the
And then
basement?
build in the basement with, clean material.
All right,
background.
I didn't want it to be a public safety hazard
No,
for the basement.
no.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Mike?
There's one minor little thing on the EAF, that's really nothing. Are there natural drainage channels on the project site? There's one adjacent to the building, but aside from that, there's nothing.
Right to the west, right?
Yeah.
Actually, so turned around on this project, I'll tell you.
Yeah, pretty sure.
To the west.
Yeah, it's almost
Mary
the
Ann?
window.
So is there a long-term plan for this parcel? For example, do you intend it to be parkland? What is the?
I don't intend it to be anything. I'm really just charged with demolishing it and removing
Someone's
material.
nodding
There's a couple
behind
plans
you.
out there, yeah.
He's the demo guy. Let's just say there's earnest discussion about it.
Right.
It's surrounded on four sides by municipally held property, as you know. Lake Ronkonkoma County Park to the west, the Lily Pond Park Preserve to the north. Town of Islip actually owns the bottom of the lake itself, and then there was a sliver of Town of Smithtown property immediately to the east. So it actually is bordered on all four sides. We're talking with the administration about, what their view of it is. Well, the community absolutely positively wants to see it, in park status. It's a natural for, non-motorized boat launching, kayaking, canoeing. DEC is very interested in us reestablishing the handicap fishing pier that had previously been set up just west of it, which got dislodged by one of the storms. The long-term purpose or use for the property, I think, is going to be to just annex it.
But the focus of my question then is, I don't know whether taking the inn down now and the parking lot later does one cost more? If you were, since you're going to take the building down, would it save money to remove the pavement now, as opposed to going in later to taking out the parking? And that would be hinge on long-term planning.
Right. We are looking at that right now. To be honest with you, the pavement itself, we have contracts in place, which, to be honest with you, it's a minimal cost compared to, the building, because the material can be recycled, and that's essentially, I want to say we pay $30 a yard to remove it. That includes bringing a dumpster, not a dumpster, but a box, and then we fill it in, and then they trailer it out. So it may be something we do now. We still have to go into discussions with the DEC. I'm not 100% sure that they're just going to let us take down the building. They may want us to look at removing everything while they're in there.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, it's just beyond the actual demolition.
Right.
We don't, as a department, we have no plan for it.
Okay.
The asbestos removal and any other toxic materials that you may find in this building, is $100,000 going to be enough to handle that type
We
of
feel so right now.
situation?
Yeah, we feel so. Well, we'll know next week. But right now, our estimate is, we should be okay. And with that estimate,
There was not to jump in, Gil, but let me just refresh the board's recollection. I did sponsor a planning steps resolution back in 2007, which the board did approve at that point. There was some preliminary assessment that was done of the building by Division of Real Estate when Chris Kent was running it. I believe that their findings were that there is no toxics per se on the site, certainly no friable asbestos. There may be some minimal encapsulated floor tile and things such as that, but no presence of any kind of toxic chemicals or anything like that on the property. Basically, when it was shut down, everything was either removed by the owner or it was picked clean by some of the local neighborhood folks. And so for all intent and purposes, you're talking about the shell of a building. You got a dry septic ring sitting on site. Probably health would want us to pop the cap, and get bottom scraping. But even there, it's basically all restaurant base.
I mean, the only reason I'm asking, John, is
Sure.
we acquired property with those trailers, which were to the west as well.
Yes,
And when Jack was in real estate and they went in to remove one of those trailers, that's
Yeah.
on expensive asbestos, it cost us $35,000
that's
to
true.
get rid of the trailer. So,
Yeah.
you know, the removal of these types of things can be pretty exorbitant, especially since you gotta dispose of them out of the state.
Mhm.
And that, I'm just saying that basically, that if you find something, you have enough money to really do the job correctly, that's all.
Yeah,
Mike?
we should be fine.
Talking about long-term plans and things like that, I've attended once or twice the Lake Ronkonkoma, for lack of a better word, advisory task force. Several of the legislators have been participating in that. I believe Legislator Silmy, Legislator Kennedy, and others. And there have been long-term plans proposed by the residents of the area, and also there has been planning going on regarding protection and further protection of Lake Ronkonkoma, which has been identified as being basically in a threatened status in terms of the environment. They have invasive species of plants coming in over there. They may end up in a Yaphank situation where they have to dredge out a lot of that stuff. It's been declared an inland waterway, and there's multiple layers of protection that either have been applied to it, and again, Legislator Kennedy might know more about it than I do, but there have been multiple layers of protection put upon this property and that are also proposed. So in that sense, there is long-term planning going on at this point in time. So that's maybe a policy decision for the legislature and for the executive to make as to what they want to do with it, whether sell it or try and put it into a preserved status. Our decision really, though, is looking at basically the bill that is before us, the knocking down of this particular attractive nuisance, and trying to fit it into however we analyze that. I don't know that we can make necessarily full policy decisions. That's not our call at this point in time.
This is going to be placed in parks.
Okay.
What I would add is, and Jim, you know this, most of the council members know this, so go back to kind of like the book of Genesis with Lake Ronkonkoma, the 1986 Lake Ronkonkoma study, which you know Dr. Koppelman authored. And the recommendations in the study there certainly were for acquisition. And it was updated and reaffirmed, I believe, by either it was Nelson Pope or H2M in the early part of 2004, 2005, which came to the same conclusion and findings. When you look around the shore of the lake now, really there's no other, well, one other commercially held property. Basically everything else is either in the county of Suffolk, the town of Brookhaven, or the town of Islip. As Michael said, it's unique not only on the island, but basically downstate, being a kettle hole lake. And it actually serves as the level of groundwater for this whole area of southern Smithtown. We deal with the infamous Smithtown clay, which many of you know about, and we had photos, as a matter of fact, that we circulated going back to 2007, where literally the lake level was at the front door of the structure. In similar situation again in 2010, I would posit to you that for all intent and purposes, it is at the very least environmentally sensitive property, and there'll be no long-term
Yeah, the
commercial
86
use
report
of it.
clearly says acquisition to try and preserve the shoreline over there.
I mean, clearly, it's in the county's hands now, which is good.
Yes,
Right.
no doubt
And
about it.
technically, this structure has to be removed. I mean, it's an attractive
Absolutely.
nuisance, an eyesore, it was a potential pollutant. I used to go out there and do surveys, and right next to the kitchen, there was a chute coming right out of the kitchen where they used to dump all the oil and everything else right into the
Right.
waterway right next to this operation.
Sure.
So the question here is you have to remove this structure and everything else. Now, I don't know if a portion of this parking area might want to be used by parks in the future. As you mentioned, the replacement of a dock or something like that. So before they start ripping out all this parking, I think that they should look at it in terms of some type of planning to find out if it can be utilized for parks for any reason rather than have to redo it all.
You know,
Well, that's probably part of what's going to come next, Jim, if you think about it or look at it. And I agree with you that there may, in fact, we may need some area where we're going to be able to accommodate some additional parking beyond what we have now in the present Lake Ronkonkoma section. But then the question becomes, I'm sorry. Then the question becomes, is it more advantageous or better for us to, like Gil talked about, work off the existing contract, rip that old, asphalt, and maybe replace it with something that's permeable and actually allows us to take advantage
That's a
of.
good idea. Leave it
Sure.
up to DPW, they always do it.
Well, Jim, how would we
nice
craft a reso if we were inclined to go along with this? What conditions, if any, would we put in the reso? Is this a straight neg deck, unlisted neg deck?
Oh, yeah, I would say it's a straight unlisted declaration, again, with the normal provisos that we put in there, but also that they're gonna get all the necessary permits from DEC and whatnot. They're gonna adhere to all OSHA standards for removal of toxic and hazardous substances and whatnot. And I wouldn't leave it at that. Leave it to DPW and to work out what's the best thing for the county here. This needs to be done.
Asbestos is RCRA.
What did you say?
I think asbestos is RCRA, RCRA.
As far as disposing, but getting rid of it.
Yeah.
OSHA for the
OSHA
workers.
Right.
controls that.
But all the necessary rules and regulations for, removal of toxic and hazardous stuff would be adhered to. That's
So
simple.
basically, you're
I
saying that,
second that motion.
Okay, so,
make a motion?
Jim, did you basically make a motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Unlisted action, negative declaration.
Any other concerns?
And adding in the DEC permits and the OSHA stuff?
Yes.
Correct.
Well,
Okay.
all the necessary.
Mary Ann?
I second that.
Seconded by Mary Ann. All in favor? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Whoever wrote the EAF had a sense of humor. The wildlife.
Rats and cats.
Rats and cats.
See, you got it wrong, though.
Activities is vandalism.
Yes, yeah.
He got it wrong, it's rats, cats, and drug addicts.
Oh, and drug addict, right.
I didn't want to put that last part in. Good day,
That's what the
everybody.
problem, this is an attractive
It's a
unit.
nuisance.
When the county owns it, if somebody gets in there and gets in it, we're gonna get sued.
Well, with the parking area still there, people still gonna park there.
Yes.
Yeah, but they don't, this is more towards permanent foreclosure, Rachel.
They
All right.
should look at a long.
This is.
Right.
Moving on.
And then the form doesn't.
Okay.
Okay?
We have nothing under other business. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped that. I gotta put the reading glasses back on. Here we go. Recommendations for the lads report. Recommendations for legislative resolutions laid on the table June 18th, 2013. It's in your packets, everybody. Are there any other concerns we should know
Yes.
about, John?
Well, from a secret standpoint, all the recommendations are there, and we didn't flag anything from a secret point that was an issue.
Okay. Mike?
I do have something under secret, because I think 1560 violates to some degree an EIS that this board did. There's a plan out there by Legislator Gregory to reduce the county's use of pesticides on public and private lands by utilizing non-invasive fish species. I read the bill, and I'm vice chairman of the Pesticide Management Committee, and the chairman of it and all of the staffers, and also Dominic Ninabaji, who runs the vector control program, has a lot of problems with that. First off, the bill states that the materials leach into groundwater. The materials currently used by vector control have never been detected in groundwater and are chosen specifically not to contaminate groundwater. Second off, the county uses very little pesticides in the habitats that Legislator Gregory is talking about. It's less than 1% of the treatment acreage. And so this technique of dumping fish in place of the larvicides that are used is of very limited utility. Third off, to a large extent, the use of fish stocking has already been examined under the Vector Control and Wetland Management Plan, and indeed is authorized as part of that. We don't need to have a second study on this. And finally, as I said, it's already authorized to include the fish stocking, and we have found that in a lot of ways, fish stocking has very limited benefits in certain areas. This technique does not address the common types of problems that the county encounters or the situations where pesticides occur. To the extent that this is displacement, it just doesn't make any sense. The use of larvicides takes place aerially in the coastal wetlands. the fish go into catch basins and go into swimming pools and things like that. It's simply not an area where the county performs any functions. It is very, very limited. Major sources of mosquitoes include natural wetlands and drainage structures such as street drains, etc., which are non-amenable to fish stocking. Now, the bill concept is admirable. Unfortunately, it's at variance with an EIS that we've already prepared, and the county has to live by. You can't vary by local law EISs, so I have major problems with this bill.
Is it at variance?
It is at variance.
It's already authorized.
It's authorized,
How can it,
but
how can it be
the
a
way he
method
wants
that's
it,
in the plan that was found to be less effective,
that's the point. It's
but it doesn't?
It doesn't cover the areas that we're talking about. The fish program that was covered inside the EIS, what's the right way to put this, does not jive with the reading of the bill that legislator Gregory is doing, to the extent that he's trying to have, if you will, displacement. It doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah, but
in
is
that
there a
way.
plan? It says a
Yeah,
plan.
there is a, there
No,
are
is there a
plans.
plan?
here.
This plan.
This plan.
It's authorizing, it's simply a
It's
plan.
considered, it's considered in each, every time they come up with the annual plan of work, it's considered. Dominic
I
dumps
understand
fish
that,
wherever
but
he
he's
can.
just authorizing a study, which is clearly a type 2
Uh,
action.
Is it a study, or is it beyond that? When I quickly read the
plan.
bill, it goes beyond that.
Yeah, it says authorized to design a non-invasive fish species component as part of the 2014 vector control plan.
There was
So,
other-
in other words, it's to study it and put it in 2014.
Could I see the legislation for a second? I saw something.
Well, that's
else.
real different. Authorizing a
Yeah.
plan versus authorizing a study
It's
is,
a type 2 action.
Yeah.
the wording of the laid on the table is, I mistook it.
I took it as, I took it the way you did, Tom. They should say then a study or an add.
If you want to have a study, I don't have a design a non-invasive species component. But all the rest of the language is talking about actually doing it.
Start doing it.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
and that's where-
you review the
plan is
vector,
you're doing it.
you review the vector control plan every year.
Yeah.
So
And they
I'll-
also must include a pilot program that would offer these fish to private property owners. It's,
But that
I
would
just don't see
come
it.
This
before
doesn't say
CEQ at a
anything
later
about a
date.
study. Where does it say study?
Well, a plan
The
is
first
a plan, a
result.
study.
it's a confused,
No.
it's very
I
badly
don't
written.
Plan's
To
not
me,
a
a plan is
study.
something written
Plan
down of
is
what
what
you're
you're
doing.
gonna implement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's
it's
how I-
talking
that's
plans
how
and
I
then it's
take
talking
this.
study. This is why I'm saying there's disconnects in here.
Yeah, but the CEQ, it's part of the 2014 vector control plan, which comes before the CEQ.
Understood.
For environmental review.
It's just very badly written. No. Personally, I don't like the bill.
Other than being confusing.
No, well, I mean, again, the logical aspect of it is he wants to do a displacement, and there's nothing to displace. It'd be great if we could, and we studied this as part of the plan, you know this, Jim. We studied looking at gambusia and other types of native fish and putting them all over the place. The only place we found that it would work would be, for example, in a Wertheim, where you have to literally reconstruct the marsh to establish the fish reservoirs. This is why this bill doesn't make any sense to me.
And that's what I'm saying, the option is already there. I mean, before vector control, they are allowed to use gambusia and everything else where they think that will help to reduce
Yeah.
mosquitoes.
And
I mean, put them in marshes already have fish.
they already
So
have
can
the
this
fish.
body
That's what they're there for.
recommend to the legislature that 1560 be revisited during the annual review of the vector control plan, and so that it's fully
Well,
integrated?
I don't have a
Not
problem
only
with
that, but why is there a need to have 1560 in the way it's written even here to begin with, if the vector control plan does use this already and have it in there?
Well, I understand that, but that's policy. I mean, you're gonna direct the legislator as to what he should lay on the table and shouldn't because it makes sense or doesn't?
Well,
you
but,
go there.
but my point is, we have the vector control management plan.
Yeah, but
And we
that's
have
why I'm
gone
saying,
through all
that's why
that.
I'm saying there's a potential
And-
conflict with the EIS, how it
Yes.
works. You can't vary it by legislative fiat unless
Yeah.
you change the EIS.
In reviewing this, you know,
Yeah.
you know, a typical, whenever we see a plan that doesn't commit somebody to an
It's
action,
already covered.
we say it's a type 2 action because it's a
Yeah.
plan. And in reviewing this, it was talking about how, staff and read it, was that it was part of the plan for the 2014 vector control
That
plan.
has to be incorporated.
Which would, CEQ would then review that 2014 plan.
And I would request that staff make sure they put on the agenda when that plan comes in there, we directly ask DPW, how is this incorporated, is it even gonna work?
Well, that's another problem with this public-private. Right now, the county works only on the public stuff. To the extent that this is offered to private people, it's going to impact upon staff time, quote unquote, from one of the memos. While the county probably could do this, there would be significant staff time involved in implementing a pilot program to offer fish to private property owners and also deal with the pesticide issues and to evaluate efficacy and cost benefits of the fish stocking program. And again, one, it's been done, two, it's hard. You know, any legislator can lay anything on the table that they want to.
The question here is what's the impact on the environment, and if all these are already in place, what
And there
difference?
isn't an
Well,
impact.
Jim, when you describe the consideration of fish species for use in private locations, is that also part of what the vector control plan has under its auspices?
In private?
No.
No.
So that's where this
This
starts
is
to
different.
become not necessarily fully overlapping with the annual plan.
But if I
Yeah,
could,
but-
in the bill, it does say that that pilot program should be part of the plan.
So we're looking to amend the annual vector control plan with this new type of
In which case, that's a
measure.
supplemental. You can't amend an EIS without doing an EIS.
Yeah,
Well,
but
you can if, and that's what I'm
basically,
saying. How do we make sure that
When
if
you get
is
the
carried
2014 plan, then you can hit it with a supplemental because it
Right.
extends the vector control, jurisdiction and parameter beyond what the original, EIS did.
through, that
But
sounds like
this
the way to make it
particular
fit.
bill, the way it is to authorize a plan for inclusion in 2014 vector control plan. Tell me,
Now,
look at it.
This goes in circles and circles. Again, it's not well written that way. I don't know what to say.
Well, then I think that this 1560 should be rephrased to say, to include the study of this in the 2014 vector control management plan. It doesn't even say that.
For consideration
For
of inclusion,
consideration.
yeah.
All right, well,
This
then-
is much too vague and much too ambiguous.
Right, I mean, but what the actual bill says, is that's what
But
they're
it
gonna
should be
do.
clarified in
Yeah,
here,
it
though.
does go all over the place. That's the problem. I mean, they're doing plans and then they're doing directives and things like that.
Can you recommend to the legislature that a bill is unclear,
We've done that before.
needs clarification?
I don't like this at all.
Well, then maybe you should request that it be tabled and that somebody
Yes.
come in to clarify this bill as to what exactly it covers. And does it, exceed the current vector control plan and EIS?
I am definitely going to recommend that.
And ask the
because
legislator
this
to
does
come
not
in.
sit well with me.
And ask the legislator to come in to explain it.
Mhm.
And that there is no secret findings, we've, tabled any secret recommendation at this point in time. And make sure you take this recommendation off the packet
Yes.
before we send it across the street.
Yeah.
Just put down,
Tabled
table.
until we get further clarification and definition of what they really want to do with this, because this is not.
I'll make that motion unless Jim wants to.
No, fine.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to accept the LADS report, except as amended, as Jim has suggested on 1560.
That be tabled.
That be tabled.
Till further information is provided.
Clarification.
And so we'll request that the legislative sponsor
Yeah.
Yes.
make a presentation to
Yes.
CEQ.
Works for me.
All right. And he's seconded? You made the motion to accept
I
this?
second.
Jim seconds. All in favor? Motion passed.
Now, this next bill, 1252/13 is amended, that was part of the Kings Park review, right?
Uh,
1252 2013 amended.
Oh, this,
At the very end.
At the very
So
end.
very end, right, that was part of it.
So that's part of it. So,
Yeah.
One.
Okay, well, that's been done.
If I could
Go
just
ahead, John.
clarify, this one was this came before CEQ back in May, and the legislator requests that it be tabled.
Yes,
We're
I
gonna-
remember that.
And now there's this amended bill, which kind of further explains the demolition of the structure
Okay.
and provides payment for it.
Okay.
So our recommendation would be that it, the same recommendation as for the project of the demolition of the Bavarian structure.
Yeah, let's quickly remove. Yes, that looks fine. Okay, is there a motion?
Motion, neg deck, unlisted.
To accept it? A second?
I would just say to accept it.
Accept it, okay.
Because we already did the neg deck on the demolition, which is
Accept
that bill.
Accept it? All in
Accept.
favor? Aye, we all did it. Just saying, making it official.
For the rate on the table, 1565, talks about a Long Island Commission on Aquifer Protection. Do we have to understand the responsibilities or the authorities of a Long Island Commission? I don't understand them.
That was
Maybe I don't have to.
That was in the papers a little while ago.
Yes, it
I don't
was.
read the
And-
papers.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I don't believe what I read in the papers, there's a difference.
But it was a consortium of many different groups, Nassau and Suffolk County, of course, we're a sole source aquifer, and to get together and discuss and figure out and how to protect it. And it was basically that.
This is like
Study and
duplicates.
figure out group.
So is the first thing you're gonna give this commission, they're gonna give them a copy of the 208 study and all the follow-up studies that were done on the protection of aquifers and
Yeah.
Hey,
and
Jim,
what's been adopted in terms of the...
Jim, what about the Long Island Commission on Water Needs of the island?
Could I just clarify this then, so that it's the same recommendations as
Is that the one that was done by
For
Soil and
the-
Conservation District? Is that the one they're referencing?
Bavarian
No.
presentation
No,
by
I don't
DPW.
think so.
That was the meeting that they had with the Nassau.
Yes.
Yeah, did it come out through, the soil and water was supposed to be part of
Well,
it. There was talk about bringing them in as part of it.
They were
This goes over
central to it.
transfer the
Okay, well, they got water in their name, so they couldn't be, I don't know. But realistically,
for the same.
don't we
Yeah,
have the legislative
that's why I did
commission
it as a
on,
vote with the-
Yeah.
Okay,
all right?
that's important.
Don't we have the legislative commission on the water needs? I forget what the title of the board is. But this is like duplicative of that.
But it's pulling in Nassau and Suffolk County.
Yeah, but that
That's
was,
the
it's,
difference.
yeah, pulling in the county, but we already have it. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't care. But,
It's fine.
yeah,
Thank you.
Somebody else for insight?
I'm not gonna say a word.
Okay.
We have volumes down the basement, so that maybe Andy should distribute all the 208,
Yeah.
SGPA, and all that stuff to
Yes.
this commission
Yes.
to find out the job was already done, but nobody enforced it.
At least the basement would
Give me your request, I'll send you a copy of it.
I already have
We-
them.
That means we can't even
In
adjourn.
fact, I've donated to charity.
Just to let you know, we don't have a quorum right now. We can't even adjourn.
Technically, we only have 5 people.
I have a question.
Joy? Go ahead.
Were you so efficient in historical report that being 5 minutes, I missed it?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah,
It was all good news.
But,
all the houses are
We're
rented
fully
out.
rented.
yeah.
but Joy,
I have a
ask for a
question.
private meeting,
Private?
a private briefing from
Just go over there and ask them to fill you in what happened.
Like the Pope, a private audience.
I wanted to, I heard that the Little Road Red Schoolhouse is being considered by the Elwood Library.
Yes, that's one of the groups that are interested that attended the tour that I gave for the request for expressions of interest. This is our new program that's opening up our historic sites for possible outside groups to come in and restore the buildings. And they are interested, yes.
Rich, I got one big issue. Books weigh a lot unless they go
Well,
with
this is
computers.
just ideas.
I understand that, but if
You
you
know,
do
and this all
anything,
comes before the CQ, before we go
I get it,
forward.
but listen to me just for a second. The
Uh-huh.
bearing weight
I know.
of
I
that building
understand.
will not support it. The
Well, that
bearing
was already
beams.
reviewed, and DPW said it can't hold book stacks on the second floor.
It would have to be reinforced.
Yeah,
Right.
That's
severely.
what the review said.
How long ago was that? I couldn't remember.
It's gotta be years ago. That's been around since, how
Yeah.
long, 25 years?
You can
Well, no,
say
no,
about 10
the
years
bearing,
ago.
the issue about the bearing weight of the second floor.
Yeah,
When the
Came-
school came to us the first time around,
the library.
the library, and said they wanted to possibly use the building, and DPW said that the floor couldn't hold the bearing weight for stacks.
But how long ago was it?
10 years ago.
10
The,
years.
the library approached us 10 years ago when we still had an agreement with the Friends for Long Island Heritage, and we were looking to have them a tenant under that program. But then they decided not to go forward with the expense at that time. Now they're taking a second look.
And we had a book, which I couldn't find, that listed what you were going to repair in one order. And the Little Red Schoolhouse was second on the list.
No, it wasn't that high up, but I don't have it. The second house is the Holman House that we are working at in Yaphank. So we are going down the list with the county funds. That was on the list, but it wasn't that high up.
Okay.
Okay. Joy, thank you for that. Now, technically, we do not have a quorum.
So we're in permanent session.
No. I'm going to just say, we can't technically vote that we're ending the meeting, but the meeting is over. That's all, okay?
We're like the U.S. Senate.
As chairwoman, the meeting is over.
All right,